This episode of Ticket Volume is brought to you by us, Invigate. Get service operations under control in no time. Get 1 free month of our software solution by going to try.invigate.com. Ticket Volume Live is proud to have Tony North on as today's guest. Tony started learning about technology while in the U.S. Marine Corps, after which he became the first PC software trainer at Safeco Insurance home office. This led Tony to technical deployment roles where he provided over 125 implementations for help desks and HR software for worldwide companies. Now, with over 22 years of managing teams, speaking, and hosting at various HR conferences, he's coming all the way here to Ticket Volume. Welcome to Ticket Volume, Tony North.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time to be here on a Friday morning. I greatly appreciate it. Little bit of housekeeping for our guests and the audience today. If you're streaming this on one of the platforms, feel free to ask one of your questions live. There should be chat options. If you're watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube, they'll be down below the video. And if you ask those questions, we'll actually see them on this stream and be able to answer your questions live. So now that the housekeeping's out of the way, Tony, thank you for being here. And what I want to do is just recap a little bit about what you've been doing recently. Because right now I know that you're working for a county out in Washington. Talk a little bit about that. How did you find this opportunity? What's it like? And what are you doing these days?
Yeah. I was, as we work, right, HDI has been a great facilitator for connecting us all together. And I learned about an opportunity at King County, which is the largest government entity in all of Washington. And it was right up my alley. It was managing the help desk, which I've been doing most of my career. But also, as you know, help desks have evolved right into a service desk where we go and do and fix and we retrieve and we do life cycle of systems. And so it was a very good challenge. It's a union shop, which is fairly new in my experience, and so I wanted to kind of expand my horizon.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that would totally do it for me. I'm not used to union shops either. So talk about that for just a second, because I know we didn't plan to talk about this, but
Yeah,
I'm too curious not to ask, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
when you say union shop, is it like an IT union or is it like everything else is union?
Basically, it's a union shop from the sense that all the employees are within a union, and because of that, there are things, stipulations that are required for the union. For instance, which this took me off guard when I first started. When I usually start managing this type of environment, I like to actually go create a ticket, and I like to then take that ticket and go service that customer, and that way I can actually get the experience that our customers feel, right? I put myself in the shoes of customers to get the actual experience and then know where we need to spend our time or ascertain knowledge from the customer that gives me feedback while I'm working with them. Well, because it's a union shop, I can't do that. Somebody else has to do that. And so I have to use traditional reporting and details and surveys, but I can't actually do that work based on the union requirements.
Okay, that totally makes sense. I've never worked at a union shop. My wife is an educator, and so she's part of a union, and they represent the employees. I love the idea of collective bargaining. It's brilliant, and let's make environments that keep people feeling safe and feeling protected. But
Absolutely.
yeah, and I really love your idea, Tony. That's a great first tip, actually, for your live episode, is to go through the experience that your customers experience. It's one of the best ways to see authentically what's happening. And it gives you that context to then connect later when you're working on improvements or listening to complaints or whatever it is.
That's right. That's right. When we talk about customer experience, that's exactly what we're talking about. Get into the life of your customer, experience what they experience, and then take that knowledge and turn it into something great.
Yeah, exactly. I had someone email me earlier this week asking what questions they should put on their survey. And I think this is a great alternative to surveys. Go through the experience yourself, and figure it out. Do some role playing. I love role playing instead of surveys. It'd be really nice to just, maybe even shadow a customer that's calling into the service desk.
Absolutely.
A lot of
Ab-
options.
yeah.
What were you going to say, Tony?
No, I agree. I agree. Shadow a customer, that's another way. Shadow a technician.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things that you can do besides just getting a survey. And people don't like to fill out surveys. And I remember back in the day, we used to have a survey and we used to add a cookie to it so people would fill it out. But really, if you want to know what's going on, you can shadow somebody or do the ticket process yourself, and you'll ascertain a lot more knowledge quicker.
Nice. I love a good $5 word drop on ticket volume. Ascertain that knowledge.
Right. Got to use the big
Okay.
words today.
Yeah, exactly. You get a bonus for every big word. No.
Thank you. Thank
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you're leading in this service desk. It's not greenfield. The county already exists, right? It's this
you.
big organization. What kind of challenges do you come across in your role?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is the challenges, which I I so appreciate, are almost the same as what I feel are challenges in the private sector. Um,
Mm,
you know, a lot of times people don't want to respond. They want to solve and respond, right? And we have to teach people, hey, response immediately provides confidence to your customers. So that's one challenge. The other challenges that we face are similar as well in my last company, which is, during the COVID period of time, a lot of people worked remotely, and now we're having a hard time getting people back in the building. And so
mhm.
that's a challenge. The secondary challenge to that is, we have PCs that have a life cycle. And so we need to replace them in that life cycle and churn and get them, updated. But since everybody worked remotely, we got into the system of not having to come into the building. And so then where do we drop that laptop off to fix it? Or, do we go out and pick it up? Which is a tough situation to be in when you have multiple buildings throughout Seattle. And so these are the challenges that we face: how to complete the life cycle, how to, get technicians to still want to be in the building helping people. And so the funny thing is, these are the same things that I see in the private world. There's
Mhm.
just in the county, there are legalities and, there, a lot of things, come up where, you have to spend a little bit more time, which is a benefit. You get a little bit more time to solve issues, whereas in the private sector, it's like get it done by Friday. And so it's a good environment, and it's the type of environment I like because it allows you to actually train the staff, right? That's the whole thing. If you have time, you can then explain the examples to the team, and then they're like, ah, that's why. As opposed to, sometimes in the private sector, you have to make the decision quickly. And you don't have time to explain it beforehand. And then they question, why are you having me do this? And so I think, that is a benefit, is having a little additional time to get through things and then see your team grow from that. That's where the downside has some benefits.
Yeah. I used to say it all the time. I wish I could pause time and like fix the things and then
Right.
and then hit play again.
That's right.
And yeah, your environment kind of it's conducive to that. That
Yeah.
is fascinating. What a great observation, and something that like you wouldn't know until you get into that situation that that's what that's
Correct.
going to be.
Yeah, I didn't expect it at all. I mean, I knew that, because I worked in the Marine Corps, and, I actually a couple of customers that I implemented service management for, the Congressional Budget Office, the city of Hollywood, Florida. So there's a lot of government entities that I've worked with, but I didn't, and I knew that things take time, but I didn't realize that I could actually use that time as an advantage. And that is actually really cool in this environment.
Yes.
Yeah,
Excellent. And that's what it's about. Finding those things and using them to your advantage.
that's right.
That's that's the key. That's what makes you so good, Tony.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
so yeah, 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 by all means. And on that note, it is so great to know you. We've connected through HDI several times. And
Okay.
if you don't know HDI, go to thinkhdi.com. It's a great network of help desk professionals, service and support professionals that network and kind of get together regularly and try to figure this stuff out.
Yeah, which is, I think, important, right? Because and I was introduced to HDI when I worked at Ben Data in 1994, right? Because it was owned by the same person, Ron Munz. And so what I didn't realize at the time is that by having a community like HDI, the original HDI customers were actually the advisory board for Ben Data. And so as it exploded, it really enabled a group of people who do a similar job function, to get together every so often and first of all, whew, wind down. And secondly, learn from each other, right? Because when you're in this type of environment, it's not about reinventing everything all over again, right? If you're doing that, then get to HDI. But the ability to communicate about the problems that we have that are very similar, and then how did you solve this? Oh, great. Well, maybe I can try that too. And that's the whole concept behind HDI, is not reinventing things, learning from each other, and then
Mm.
still improving our life as we work.
I love it. Yes. Yes. Learn and improve. Um, I talked with Sean McLean recently, and he pointed out like that's what you need to do at conferences. Like
Right,
take back just those little nuggets of learning, see if you can apply them.
right.
Ask good questions and get people, helping you out.
That's right.
We also met recently. We talked about leadership, about help desk leadership, and how those roles, in the help desk and in IT in general, so often technical merit
Yeah,
or agent merit gives you those promotions into leadership roles. And
that's right.
sometimes that's not a great idea because someone who's great with computers isn't necessarily good with people.
That's right.
What do you find as a leader of a service and support organization? What do you find challenging in that role?
Yeah, I mean that's a clear thing. You first of all, the challenge is, am I putting the right people in the right spot, right? And
Mm,
so as a leader, a lot of times, what you have to do is you have to take a step back before you make those type of choices, so you could learn more about your people, right? And that's, again, in the private sector, sometimes we don't get to do that. We have to make decisions a little quickly. But
yeah.
if you're able to learn the strengths and weaknesses of your teams, then you're able to position them in the areas that they are successful in. So the
Yes.
the goal is that you want the right person in the right job. So like in King County, we're in midst of that, right? Because I've been here 5 months and we're in the middle of transition. We've consolidated 4 teams into one team, and now we have 40 people. And the goal here is to be able to then build a path for everybody, right? You can start
Mhm.
at entry level and you can evolve. And so one of the ways that you can manage the staff and get people to the right place is build a career path for them within your team. And that way, then they can see where they're clearly going. And,
Yeah.
and B, you can then position them to where best. Now, position them. And that's the key word because you need to do it where people are doing it with you, right? You can't just say, hey, by the way, you're going to go over here. You need to talk with them. You need to spend time with what they're interested in. And then by understanding their strengths and weaknesses, that's where a manager needs to be persuasive and say, but you know what? I know you talked about going into management, but you're super technical. And every time that there's an issue, an escalation comes up, you're the one that people turn to. What if, and this is where you then have to think a little creative, what if we did some sort of lead for escalations as opposed to you managing multiple people? And in this situation, you're giving somebody an opportunity to do something that they're really strong at technically without moving them to something where they're going to hit, the Peter principle, right? The Peter principle, where you work up to a place where you're incompetent. And so our goal in management is to avoid anybody from hitting the Peter principle, enabling them to continue their success. And so you need time to understand who they are. You need to work with them and talk with them about what they're interested in. And then you need to be able to share with them what you see and how they fit. And sometimes it may not be in your exact career path, but it's something that will enable them to grow. And that's the whole idea. It's like a plant. You got to put it in sun if you want it to grow. And that's all we're doing as managers. Hey, so can you hear me still? Can you hear me? I
Yes,
can't.
can you hear me okay?
There we go. Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
Technology, right?
Um,
Technology.
yeah, technology. I really love what you said there. Specifically, I really like the metaphor that you made about people to plants. People aren't plants, of course. But what I really like is that you have to get to know the plant. You need to know what it takes. You start to see what healthy looks like.
Yeah.
And the other point that I really love that you made is to be creative with that.
Yeah.
Make the role. If it doesn't exist, go outside the box. Think of something else you can do to provide for that plant.
That's right. That's right. They do. Funny enough, on plants, I've been learning a lot in the last few years. That's the goal. Continue to learn. I learned that if you talk to your plant every day, right, just like you talk to your dog or your cat or something like that, that it actually helps a plant grow. Now, I don't have proof of this, but there have been studies that show that you devote the time and it comes out, in an improved situation. And so that's the same thing with people. You have to devote the time, and that's where I think that takes time. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's tough to do, but when you devote the time, the outcome can be successful.
Dude, yes. And it does. It takes a ton of time. You see it as an adult. You try to make new friends as an adult. Oh my gosh, it takes so long because you got to build all that trust, and
That's
it
right.
is really it's a personal thing. It's very personal, and
It is. That's right.
add the professional working environment to that, and it just adds another layer of complexity and difficulty.
That's
But
right.
people like you are great at it, and that's why we love you, Tony. Okay, so we've been getting some good questions here, so we need to get to some questions because I can't be just capitalizing your time on my own here. We had an observation earlier in the episode when we were talking about getting back to the office. It's something that a lot of companies are facing today, and is it possible for management to reset expectations and be flexible with their workforce? What sort of suggestions or what sort of tricks are you like is your organization doing to either get people back to the office, wanting to get back to the office, or resetting management expectations and process expectations and not getting people back to the office?
Right. I think, yeah, so that's a challenge. I know a couple of the companies here, Amazon and a couple of companies in downtown Seattle have said, we're going to force our people to come back in, you know, 3 days a week, right? And so I'm never in the mindset of, using the force word, right? I'm always in the mindset of, I really want people to do things because they feel it's the right thing to do. And so
Mm,
I usually steer away from directing, right? Even though I was a director for 18 years, a senior director for 5, I steer away from directing. I focus on sharing, facilitating, coaching, mentoring. And so we have that issue, right? Like everybody's facing. How do you get everybody back? So before I started here, they already had one thing that was set up, which is all managers come in every Tuesday. And I like that model because I still will work, remotely the rest of the week. And then I come in on Tuesdays. And by the way, I schedule tours and client site visits. And, I really take advantage of that one day. And so I call that one day a stepping stone, right? Because a lot of times it's easy just to say cut and dry, this is what we're going to do. But I believe in taking baby steps to get where you want. I don't know if you watch What About Bob, but I truly believe in What About Bob because he obviously, sold the book from his counselor to talk about how you can use baby steps to achieve just about any goal. And so I believe that. And so here's what we're doing. I've got 4 teams combined into one, and I've two of the teams all did the remote work. And so this is a challenge to get now people who just did remote work to come into the office. And so one of the ways that we're doing that is we have new hires that are coming in and we're having them all be versatile, right? Because one of the ways that you can be persuasive is to actually show an example of what behavior you'd like, right? And once people see people coming in the office, I think, it's infectious, right? Especially if they're coming in the office and they actually like the people that they're hanging around with. That becomes infectious, and then it's an organic process. Hey, I'm going to come in on Tuesdays, and so that's what I've got right now. I've got somebody who's never come into the office. He's coming in on Tuesdays because that's the day that all the management comes in, and he works with me a lot. And I said, hey, and if you like it, you just come in each Tuesday, right? And so I think taking baby steps on the approach to get people to the office instead of being cut and dry and saying, now, here's the deal, it's a tough market. And even though we see a lot of layoffs, right? It's tough to keep quality people. And
Mm,
so, yeah, maybe you lose people that aren't super quality, but you lose one person that's of high quality. I think that's too much. And
mhm,
so, my approach in the baby steps is to slowly progress to get people to slowly come in, and then more and more come in. We had a pizza and salad party 2 weeks ago, and we only thought we are going to get 10 people. We had 23 people in that pizza party. And so using some opportunities for food so that they can network and collaborate. And I brought leaders in so they could talk with the leaders. But like I said, then be able to say, hey, by the way, in this career path that we talked about earlier, we want you guys all to be able to do multiple things as well. And in
mm.
our depth chart, we are looking for people who can be versatile. And so once we show that behavior and convince people that once they come in, we've got that culture that they want to be with, it becomes easier and easier. Then you get volunteers who want to, hey, I want to do the remote stuff for this week. And that's where we're in the middle of that right now. So I definitely believe in the carrot over the stick. I believe in taking baby steps to achieve the goal. I don't think it's going to be quick. Yeah, I mean, it was quick to get everybody to work remote because of
Safety.
yeah, right, the pandemic. But anything that is worthwhile takes time. And if you're going to achieve your ultimate goal, you have to pull people along, not tell them what to do.
So much wisdom there, Tony. The opportunity that you see it as an opportunity, and that is why that positive attitude is so important. You can adapt for what the people need. Some people might need remote this week. They might need to be in person. And I
Yeah.
also really like that you tied it back to psychology with the What About Bob reference, which of course I love because we've got a baby schedule to keep here, Bob.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
uh, but the psychology element is what is so key, and it's something that I've had multiple people leaders that are excellent, just like you point out that, and I've realized I don't know what's good for me.
Right.
right? That's why I have a counselor. That's why I have a therapist. That's why I
Okay.
talk to them on a regular basis, because I'm not always going to see the full picture. I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to want comfort. And a lot of times, comfort is the enemy. We need to take those baby steps to get out of our apartments and get out of our homes and get on the bus and go to work.
That's right.
And you don't always realize the benefits of just being in person, being in contact with people, and working together in a small space. You might realize it after the fact.
Yeah.
You might even realize it in the moment if you're lucky or you're observant, but I find myself constantly denying it.
That's right.
Okay, so we've got some more great questions here. Specifically back to the lifecycle comment about assets. How do you manage the lifecycle with users' needs in mind? And this is one that comes up often because people always want the latest and greatest, and we're adding in this new problem of sustainability, like how do we be ecological? But here, Rocky's asking a great question. How do you track if certain users maybe need upgraded equipment before the life cycle dates and others? Do you treat some users differently than others? How would you respond to that, Tony?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we dealt with this in my last job, and of course we're dealing with this now. Typically, what I started out in I ran the project for our life cycle program in my last role, and typically what I focused on was understanding who needed to have a life cycle replaced system. First of all, get the list.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's going to happen is with that list, it's going to slowly change anyway because the life cycle machines, there are going to be problems with, let's say, 12% of them. And so some of the life cycle is going to solve itself organically by people calling up and having a break fix. So you should just know that, let's say you got 5,000 people systems to replace. 12% of them are going to be replaced automatically. And so that's why you have to monitor that list. What we first started out with is we did what I call a beta run, right? Just to pick an easy word. And so we took a snapshot of 100 users and we shared that this is what we plan to do. And we went through the process, like I shared earlier, right? Take a snapshot, put yourself in their shoes, and go through the
Mm,
process with them so you can improve. We got 5,000 to replace, so taking a snapshot of 100, I'm going to definitely identify problems that are going to come out of this that I have to solve. The other thing is you deal with vendors. It's not just you, right? I mean, most
mhm,
of us don't have a full team to just sit there and replace systems, right? We're lean and mean, and some people are laying off. So we have to work with our vendors to use tools like Intune or SCCM, right? These tools that will build the system for us. And by the time, if you do it right, your vendor can build the system, use the Intune applications that you need on that system. And then instead of having it come to your technicians in the building, you can have it sent directly to your customer. So
mhm,
that way you get out of the business of a distribution process and you get into the business of, making sure the systems are exactly what they need. If you use Intune, you're going to have, per department, you're going to have multiple sets that you have to use and you need to manage that. That's where your time and problems are going to be. But how we do it is now we're done with our 100 list. Now we're going to send a note to everybody that we're going to work on over the next year, right? Because this is not going to be quick. We got to take time, right? We're going to do a certain number per quarter, right? And that's the goal, is to do a certain number per quarter. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to send a note out to the 4,000, or the 4,000, you know, that's remaining from the 100. And based on that list, we're going to share with them almost like in a survey style. We wanted to let you know what we plan to do. We want to ask you a couple of questions to help us understand the urgency of your issue and to be able to ensure that you're ready for this, because some people may not want it. Like you said, they like, my system's working fine, don't change it. As soon as you change it, I'm going to have a problem, right? The Murphy's Law effect. And so we do it survey style. We get all that feedback, we collate that data, We understand the ones that we have to fit and take care of first, and they're done in the first quarter. We understand the people that are not interested in doing it, even though we may want to replace their systems, and we move them to the fourth quarter, hoping that they fix their stuff with a break fix, right? Because we didn't want to
Yeah.
change it. They didn't want to change it. But if it gets down to now the last quarter and you have the last group of people that don't want to change it, at that point, you can send out another survey and ask some questions and share information about their systems. We wanted to let you know that the reason why we're doing this is because the warranty will expire. If there's a
Hmm.
problem past a particular date, then we're out of compliance. That's going to mean we have to pay for a whole brand new system. And that is a double cost of doing it in this life cycle process. So using a persuasive, pushing them to the end, but then being persuasive about it. But the goal is to pay attention to what's going on, pull the list together, know the affected group so that you can communicate effectively and then make it successful through that communication.
Very thorough answer. I love the concept of segmenting people based on where they're at mentally about the change.
Yeah.
Um, and I saw a presentation at Support World or Fusion or Service Management World, and it was this dude from one of the financial institutions that caused problems, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac.
Oh yeah, right.
And he did this great presentation. I think it was actually a panel, and he pointed out, like, when someone comes up with a broken laptop, we literally hand them the next one. It's like ready to go, or it's in a locker and it like auto pops open if they say that their laptop's broken, and it's set up and it's ready to go. And he put it so perfectly. He said, it's something that we do all the time. We are swapping systems literally all day long, and we wanted to get good at it.
Right.
I just love that perspective. Like, he just wanted to get good at replacing them. And so it got to the
Yeah.
point where, yeah, someone could walk up, get a new laptop, they log in, and then like 4 or 5 minutes later, they've got all their apps, they've got most of their data, especially if they're
Yeah.
on site. And you could see tons of people were excited about that idea.
Yeah.
Like, that's something we could do, have them sitting. And I think they took it to the next level and had one of those crazy locker systems where all the laptops are plugged in. And
Right.
they're on the network, so you can like start pushing to them as soon as they register that their laptop's broken. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I love the technology because I'm a nerd. I can't
Yeah.
help it.
That's right.
But I also like what you said, right? Like, you need to think about it logically and systemically. And at the risk of this being called the baby steps episode, you got to take baby steps.
There you go. There you go. The other thing is, once you get past this situation, because this is the situation everybody's in, but
Yep.
once you can get past this situation and you do it in that method, then the next time that this comes around, right, you get through this period of time. Okay, next year we got a year off, but then the next year we're going to start this all over again.
Right.
Then you can get to a situation where you have the list, what we call proactive, right? This is where time helps you build a strategy. You build the list. You watch that list in the year before you start this whole process, and you identify the systems that you're going to need to do in that next year. And as you watch that list, any of the systems, and you keep that list available to your technicians, and when it registers that this one next year is going to be on the list, then instead of just doing nothing with it and fixing it, replace that PC before the
Yes.
year gets here to turn it over. Now, guess what? Hopefully, the goal will be in being proactive. You've shortened your life cycle list by at least half. And that is a savings to the company, not just to the employee. It helps the employee because now they've already got their new system, but it helps the company with a larger cost. But again, you have to go through this process first to know it so that you can do it right. And that's where we all are because we all just came from COVID. But then proactive, take a proactive stance, automatically replace systems when they come in for a problem or a break fix or the software's not working correctly. Oh my gosh, you're right. We're just going to replace your system if that's okay because we think and the solution's going to be in that new system. Boom. Now the next life cycle process is half the cost. half the time,
Yes.
right?
Half the time.
And that's the thing, is not just half the cost, half the time of technicians.
Technicians, the person who uses that end station.
That's right.
Like, that's what I was thinking about. Because like you basically took 2 tickets and made it 1
Yes, that's right.
by doing that.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Oh, I love that gold, man. I love that gold. Okay, so you did a presentation recently on data-driven decisions. What
Yes.
the heck? Okay, so I have to admit, I've heard of test driven development, TDD. I've
Yeah,
heard of data-driven design, which
yeah.
is the 3Ds. What the heck is data-driven decisions?
Data-driven decisions is, and I'm just gonna
Spitball.
spitball. Um, Build your dashboards for the KPIs that you have as a company, right? These are the
Mhm.
key performance measurements or key performance indicators that tell you I'm going to go this way or I'm going to go that way. And then educate your team as a data culture. Instead of like just making off the cuff decisions, right? This person has this problem. Go to the dashboard, look at the data, have a history of the problem, right? And here's an example. We just solved our CIO's issue. We have a new CIO, and I helped. Remember, I put myself in my shoes. So on her first day, I went with my technician to introduce myself, understand how this new CIO works, but also understand what my technician does when they solve something and send a new onboarding system. Well, her laptop's not working. And based on it not working, she's like, I don't have time, right? I'm meeting. I'm gone all the time. How do I solve this? And the technicians were like, okay, we'll just replace it. And so I said, hold on a second. Let's set up a meeting and review this situation. So when we come up with a solution, we've reviewed what's happened in the past. See, on that first day,
Mm,
we had to replace our system on that day because of some problem that the system had with Adobe or some other technology that wasn't working the way it was supposed to. So I said, before we replace the system, everybody know what happened before. I would hate for you to go to this customer, whether it's a CIO or any customer, and replace their system. And they say, well, is this going to be solved? Last time there was a problem. And then they'll go, oh, there was a problem last time? No, we want to know
mhm,
the history of what happened. And that's where I showed the list of the problems that the system had before with these technicians. So they knew when they got out there, A, they fixed the problems from before, which wasn't done. And B,
mhm,
they have knowledge about what's happening. So when we talk about data driven decisions, we're talking about just that. Review the facts, review the details, make an assumption about the facts and the details to come out with an outcome that is going to solve the problem completely, not just band-aid things and now we have another ticket and now the customer's frustrated. Let's use data to drive those decisions, and typically that means you have to have a data culture.
mhm,
You have to know that data is important to your operation. You have to know that where is the data so I could go look at it and make a decision. And then you have to encourage your teams. Hey, you're going to make a decision? Before you just do it, look at this data and make a better determination, a better outcome. The goal is solve it once. Don't
mhm.
don't make repeat business for yourself, right? We're not in the business of doing repeat business so we can keep ourselves busy. We're we're in the business of looking at things. If we have repeat things, determining what we can do to fix that. And so data driven decisions helps us with that. And that's where you can have a data culture and use a data governance, which was the end of my presentation, showing things like what's important to us as a company for data. What is that data related above what we do at the higher level? And what is that data for us at our level? And then what's that technical knowledge we need to apply to it? And then being able to know where is all your data throughout your organization. Let's list it. And by the way,
Mhm.
when we list it, know what the retention of that data needs to be and where that data is kept and who are the stewards of that data. And then
Yeah.
develop a committee, because here's the thing, You're not going to have the person who's the most technical person to pull this data together share with others why this data is important. You need somebody else completely different to communicate that data, such as somebody who has knowledge, expertise of the company or the business,
Mm.
somebody who can be persuasive in their communication and their ability to present, because you're trying to achieve goals with that data. And this is where a data governance can help you.
I have to kind of cover my mouth so I don't just cheer while you're talking. So much gold in there. So much gold. Designing dashboards based on the decisions you need to make.
Yes,
That in and of itself is just a huge, huge revelation, because so often people come to me and they're like, what are the metrics I should, oh, I need to
right.
know ticket volume, pun intended.
That's
I
it.
need to know, I need to know what my first call resolution is. I need to know, well, maybe first call resolution doesn't actually align with your organizational goals.
That's right.
Maybe that's not what you want.
That's right.
So I love the idea of designing your reporting and your dashboards around the decisions you need to make. We see this in design and marketing all the time, where we're like, oh, well, let's try A and B and see which one works, and then whichever one's working, we'll just do that one.
That's right.
You
That's
could
right.
see doing the exact same thing in a service desk.
Yes.
If we answer and ask for the employee ID first, how are we rated CSAT? If we answer and give a warm welcome and a personal greeting, what's the CSAT score on those? And
That's
being
right.
able to determine that and make those data-driven decisions. Oh,
Exactly. Exactly.
gold.
Yeah, golden. And by the way, I didn't do this alone. I had a couple of
No.
managers when I was a director, and we built this war room. That's what I used as my example. We built this war room. We had a machine it was supposed to put pills in packets, but it was putting the wrong pills in the packets, and sometimes it was putting no pill in the packet, and that gets distributed through the hospital. And so then when it gets there, if they eat the wrong pill, it's a patient safety issue, right? And so we built this war room. We took a conference room and we put up all the metrics on every wall so we can understand the region of the problem, the systems of the problem, where every customer was plotted throughout the US, and then really drill in on our ability to solve the problem. So hopefully, people don't have to go to that extreme to build a war room, but using dashboards and metrics achieves the same goal, but at a much lower level and can be used in your daily work. And that's the thing, enabling the key performance indicators to be used in a daily work you see all the time. And it's not hard to get to, but it can help you improve your decisions.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, we got one more topic I need to cover with you, just because I
Yeah,
need to hear the story, and then we'll close this thing out.
you got it.
And you mentioned it actually when we were meeting, and I didn't throw it out there as a topic we needed to cover, but you
That's
offered
right.
it up,
That's right.
and we all know that AI is coming. It's
Yeah.
it's 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 built into our tools. It's been built into our IVRs for a long time.
Right.
It's coming into our ticketing tools now. What have you done in your past that leverage some sort of AI-like abilities, and what benefits did it get you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I mean, everybody's using, Chat GPT now. And so AI, and I've been talking about AI, I think now for, geez, 4, 5 years. It's just slowly evolving. So I agree. It's a topic of today. In my last role, and I'd like to take credit for it, but this was already instituted, before I got there. So I had to just carry it forward. But um, we used AI to communicate about incidents. We used, and we were very cautious, right? Because automatically most systems, right, that we use for incidents also send email, right? And we didn't want to
Mhm.
have duplicates of what we did. So we were very cautious about how we used AI. But here's the benefits. I'm at somebody's desk in a different building. AI is telling me, hey, you've got another client right there. They didn't have to leave. AI had been
Yes.
able to formulate this plan that said, hey, I see that a technician is already in this specific building. Let's get this over to them so that they don't have to drive back home and then drive back out there, or they don't start working on something else. So AI was absolutely an advantage for technicians. Secondly, AI is able to communicate with your customers. And like I shared earlier, we linked up our AI, which we used MoveWorks, and it was linked up to Teams. So the great thing about AI is it's a technical stack. So, if you're using whatever communication mode you're using, AI can just, be a part of that stack, and then you kind of choose how you leverage it. So we
Mhm.
used AI, for instance, for that example for technicians, but we used AI also to be able to have people who had to approve something, right? Because
Mm.
typically the rule of thumb is we use the system to communicate in email, but at the end of the day, you finally get to your email, and now I approve something. Well, that sometimes becomes a problem. We want the approval to be done a lot earlier and a lot quicker. So again, we didn't use AI for every communication that our incident system used, but we selected key things for our AI system to use, like approvals, which then sped up our ability for our change advisory board process. It sped up our ability for people who had budget considerations that needed to take place, and that approval pushed it back to accounting so they could pay something. So we strategically identified the areas like update a ticket. You may not need an incident to send a note to update a ticket, but an AI is perfect for, hey, by the way, we see that there's a change. Do you want to update the ticket? And they can ignore it, or they can just go in, oh, thank you for helping me with that. So we could use information like that. Lastly, we could use AI to communicate things that are super important. Here's the deal. Every ITSM system, right, since Ben Data in 94, when I used to implement it, has the ability to put a board up, right, to communicate some things that occur today.
Mhm.
Let's say, for instance, the Oracle system is down. This is ironic. This happened just today. There's a system that's down, and instead of just waiting for people to log into our ITSM solution and see the bulletin go across the green space there, they can actually get a notice from AI that says, hey, by the way, the Oracle system is down. So you can absolutely use AI as an advantage. Now, here's the other side of the coin. People are like, and you know this, am I going to be out of a job? And I think, I think the thing is that's kind of a fear tactic, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
if we don't advance this technology, listen, people said that about the telephone when it came out, right? People said
Mhm.
that about the microwave when it came out, and people said that about, AirPods, right? That, oh my,
All technology.
all technology. So that's just a technology fear, worry issue. But again, we're technology driven in America. We use our knowledge and our technology to advance our agenda. And that's exactly what AI is about. You pick and choose what you want to use it for. Don't get into a situation where you feel like it's running your life. Listen, I don't want AI to be cooking my meal. I suck at cooking, but I'm definitely not going to trust an AI to do it. So just know that, don't be worried about what AI can do for everybody. Focus on what AI can be an advantage for in your environment. Identify
Mhm.
the things that are a problem first before you even get with AI. Identify the things that are a problem first, get that list, and then identify which ones could be solved with AI. Now you can show the ROI to pay for this solution and then utilize it in a way that helps your community.
Yes, and doesn't affect the users in a negative way.
That's right.
Simone pointed out that's a great idea for agents or for approvals to do that. That's a
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant move. Um, and I like the microwave metaphor. It's great because agents live in this chaos. It is chaotic to be an agent. You're checking 12 systems a second,
That's right.
basically. And I really like the idea of leveraging it to sort of reduce some of that chaos and connect some of the dots that we just don't have time or room for in our days.
Yeah.
I could see how an AI could look at call logs and say, hey, you called this person, but I don't see a ticket.
Yeah, that's
Or I
right.
don't see an update to the ticket for this person. And by the way, here's the link to it, so you can just get straight to it. There's so many usability and
And think about the
advancements that.
CMDB. Think about the
Oh
CMDB. Like, we
yeah,
all have a problem with the CMDB. Why not gear your AI to look for, the configuration information links that aren't working?
yeah.
Use machine learning to educate your AI to say, hey, instead of me having somebody run a report and, I've got now a technician that's specifically focused on, the CMDB, why not assign that to an AI capable system, and then it can look for links that are bad. And now all you get into the business of doing is fixing. And that's the exact same methodology that I talked about um, with the life cycle systems.
Yep.
Get out of the business of doing the manual part. Know what's happening. Let your vendor take care of that. And then you just get in the business of managing the Intune and the departments and the problems that it creates. So the same thing here. Let the AI find the problems. And then now you're in the business of fixing it as opposed to doing both, which, again, as a technician, we don't have enough time.
Yeah, so true. I saw yesterday someone pointed out that to say that an AI can replace what we're doing right here is an insult.
That's right. Absolutely. By the way, I forgot to tell you, I'm an AI machine. Um, that's where, and that's the line right there. That's the line.
Yep.
What AI won't be able to do for you is to comprehend the facts of the details and be able to do a lessons learned and then develop a strategy for how to improve. So people are putting AI at the wrong place. AI should be after the strategy,
Mhm.
and you identify from the strategy what you need to accomplish. Then you plug in the AI in the areas that it can be successful in. If you do it right, you'll get your ROI and it'll pay for itself.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Tony. Thanks for being on. Where can people connect with you and learn more?
Well, I'm at tonynorth.com, but I also have, there's 42 of us, but I'm tonynorth42 at gmail.com as well. Be glad to help anybody. My whole premise is I've been there, done that. I don't know everything, but if I know something that can help somebody, that's why I'm part of HDI. Somebody helped me ascertain where I am here today. So HDI gives me a vehicle to help other people. And if we can help each other, that's even better. So would love to connect up if there's information, would love to help. And I may pick your brain on things that could help me too.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being on Ticket Vine, Tony.
Thank you.
And for our audience, thanks for listening to this live episode. We have a bunch more out there, so make sure to subscribe to receive an alert every time there's a new one. You can also submit a specific topic or guest by DMing me or putting it in the comments right now because I'm reading them. And speaking of comments, leave a comment, leave us some feedback. You know that the algorithm will reward us for your interaction. This podcast is brought to you by Invigate, the all-in-one IT service and asset management system that helps organizations with world-class IT support. If you're looking for a solution to build your help desk without the headaches of year-long implementations, you will love Invigate. In fact, IT teams from NASA, Toyota, and McDonald's use Invigate to manage requests, automate workflows, and centralize inventory data so that they can focus on delivering better service. Because remember, good service is good business. All right. If you're still on for the live broadcast, feel free to use this link. You can join us live. We'll just have a little after-hours session here. If anyone wants to join and just meet, talk with Tony or talk with me, and we'll do that. See you in a bit. And Tony is back.
All right.
Hey, thanks so much, dude.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Such a good episode.
That was a lot of fun, by the way. Some great topics. some really great topics.
And a lot of basic ones, which I always really want to hit the basic ones because people I think that there's a lot of questions when it comes to the basics. So
Yeah, absolutely.
What I was thinking was, and the reason I posted that at the end real quick is because I'm thinking that the next live, so we have one, forgot to promote the next live event. Sellers, I'm sorry. Oh, and we're still live. Oh, great. Hey, Simone. Hey. So if we are still live, come to the next live event.
There you go.
It's April, I think it's April 12th. We're going to talk about experience management, customer experience, and how IT is going to be the partner, the powerhouse that does that. But what I was thinking of, and I'm going to end the broadcast now on a cliffhanger, but what I was thinking of is that maybe the next live ones could be